the reason I decided to take the afternoon session is to control at least you guys do not lose the focus if I leave you guys for a practical session in the afternoon. I really don't have any confirmation that you guys are working, so I decided, okay, morning peaceful session, whatever it is there, you practice and at least spend time for learning a new thing. Now, okay, as usual, new project. You see that I'm always preferring to choose this one because this is where it's giving me a boilerplate code. Boilerplate means it's a ready-made template or certain convention as developer using. So it's something like well sufficient to start with. What it creates a single view controller with the classes ready and it is connected with the main storyboard and gives me an option to add core data or whatever it may be in the future uses. But we can select these things, but you may see a lot of codes already been written. Instead of getting them from a template, we will create everything from scratch. So this is the ideal point to start with. The name. This is the storyboard. Remember, everybody may have their own way of developing, but I always try to stay in the Xcode instead of double tapping it. I usually stay in the same perspective. So single click was more than enough to get your right pane adjusted. You don't need to double tap it. As everybody coming from a Windows background, we keep double tapping it. So if it goes, what really will happen? It will open a new window from there. It's not something. It's not bad to edit it here, but still, one point of time you may be getting a focus where though that window went off, or sometime you end up creating a lot of duplicate windows. So I would recommend stay with one idea what you are doing. And I found a way to increase the font size. That be okay? We can even increase it much. It's much better, I hope. So we have a single view controller design. Since our entire design is going to be view controller, navigation controller based, my very first job is to create or embed everything into a navigation controller. First job that you have to do. Okay, now the initial view controller has been this particular arrow moved here, and it is loading the very first view controller at this point. Only name will do. Let us bring some fields. I'm trying to make it a simple example. I always prefer to start with a left base. My design always start from a left orientation. I really don't consider about something as center point of view because the constraints are working in that way. It applies the forces between the edges or from the edges. It is always nice to maintain in this way so that the constraint always goes successfully. And this time, this area, the property area I'm trying to focus. So I'm going to give a hint. It's exactly same like your placeholder in HTML tag. Our HTML input tag had a placeholder. I hope you remember that attribute. So it just give a very grayed out input so that the user understand, okay, this field for which purpose he typed that. But I still recommend having a label. But okay, and a button. We give some sort of. Now you have two views have been added and time to decide about the constraints. This part, if you notice, it has been divided into two areas. See, when I highlight the view, the yellow button, mean I have selected the entire view. So I could be applying the constraint for that view and view controller alone. But if you are highlighting one particular component or one particular view, in this case I have just selected the input text field, you will see this part, both the things being showing. So if your constraint should be applicable only for that selected view, make sure you select from here, or if you are still want to set for entire view, you can select from here. So it's up to you. This kind of situation will arise when you modify the existing constraint. For example, suddenly I would like to add one more input field, but where the constraint is already applied, that time you can apply the constraint for the specific field alone. Okay, let me add a constraint, reset to suggested constraint. Once I added, we just see that the certain constraints been added, so alignment is being created, and it's going to maintain the aspect ratio or some sort of adaptive design to maintain the same for across all the phone screens. It's nice to test before. Okay, good. So slightly confusing. Okay. So I can type anything, and once I click enter, I want to move to a second view controller. There I would like to show the particular text. Now I need to have an instance of this particular text field because I need to read what it's been typed, and I need to initialize the instance of this button. Is it really needed? That I have to identify. Stop. Okay, let us start from the storyboard point of view. We are not going to type much. Let me come to the code sharing. This will give me a back-to-back view. So the corresponding header file open and give this is a text input, or let me highlight it, which one it is. Okay, this one. Command control define the property. I would prefer having a strong storage type. I mean, let the memory remain as long as possible. I don't want to keep it in a weak property, just let it be a strong. And say name field, job done in single line. And button I'm not going to add because I really don't see the instance of a button required unless I want to modify or read the particular thing. I only need to listen the event of the button. I really don't need to modify or read something, what the button label or something else is there. So I'm not going to define that. Instead, okay, sorry, this is a problem with that. So let me go back to the single view. Here, the property has been defined, and in fact, we call it as a property instead of object quite often in Objective-C. So name field has been defined, and I need to have one function to listen the button click. That interface builder action, it's like an event listener for a button. So enter. So this is a method defined here and implemented. See, this synthesize is missing. These guys would have added that also automated. What is that name field? Okay, so whenever the button is getting clicked, I'm going to get a callback here, but it is having it doesn't have a dark dot here because it is not connected yet. So let's connect it. Whenever this button, right click on it, whenever the touchdown happens, and check whether any event listeners are present. You see that the enter button pressed is being created. Select it, make sure it is showing up here. Then you come and notice here the button has been connected. So that's enough. Now we are going to put another view controller so that that value or the segue can move to the second view controller and take the data along with that. So let me bring another view controller. Okay. So usual way we know that whenever this button is clicked, okay, sometimes the highlight doesn't work. So let us select it. So whenever the button gets clicked, we are going to go to this launch, this particular view controller. This view controller just being dragged now, and it doesn't have a class for it, so we are going to add that file. Say I'm going to make it as a second view controller. Once you create that, define it, this particular ownership belongs to this particular class. These steps are very important. Let me try to give a title to it. It doesn't have, so it's time to add a navigation item on the top of it so that the title can be added. Same thing we are doing. So let me add another text input. This time we'll add two text inputs. Control C, Control V, copy paste, duplicate it. And we'll also put one label. That label is going to be from the first view controller, and additional two fields the user is going to type. So this one, whatever, and a button. We have a label which is going to be the data is going to be from this particular input text field. Whatever you type is going to come here, and additional two fields the user enters and finally clicks next and goes to this third view controller. But before that, we have to complete this part. Let me add the constraints to start with. Hopefully the constraints are added. Fine. So let's first verify. fine. So the view controllers are working. Now time to define certain additional work. Segue. Segue is always recommended to define an identifier so that we can check the source and destination view controllers through the identifier. Say, then it will be first, second will be confusing. Say name, first name segue, whatever. So just the name. Once you highlight, give a name for it. Okay. I'm also going to add one more button. Okay, it's the constraints are being confused now. So what I'm going to do, let me select, going to clear the constraints, make myself clear. So let us go back. This is for next. Both should be into center. So both with the same. I've selected two buttons so that the spacing maintained. Maybe I can bring it a little closer. Now reset the constraint. Looks everything done. Something terribly fired. This constraint is missing. This is the problem with the non-left based design. That's the reason I never prefer to have a central aligned design. Okay, clear the constraints. Let me do it from here. That's fine. This one at least, we'll come back to that a little later. So next is going to take the user to the second additional view controller, but that's not a concern here. I would like to bring the data back. When I click back button, I want whatever I typed over here, I would like to bring it here. And remember, this acts as a cancel button. And this is nothing to do with this one, because when the user decides to send some data, he has to fill the form and click the required form so that the data can be taken back. This is some sort of cancel. Without doing anything, he can go back like that. So let's try that. I think we need two more labels to bring the data. So for this view controller, I'm going to add two more labels. I added additional labels, so now time to select them and add the constraint to the selected views alone. So because already certain constraints been added, so along with that it will be added with the additional constraints. Okay, we have two labels, so user is going to type his name. It goes here, the name appears here, and he enters the subject and hit back. The data should come with the whatever the data he has entered should come and display in the first view controller. If this is your requirement, let us plan. These labels have to be defined, so we have two labels. Always select the header file, define the properties. So this one is going to be subject label. And two labels have been connected. You can type something like better a meaningful name. Subject. This case. This will be replaced with the dynamic values, whatever we type. Okay. All looks fine. Everything have been defined. This back button, hopefully not defined yet. We have two input text fields and a back and next button. Going to the second view controller, select the header file. And start defining them. This is the input text field. So subject field. Marks. And back next will require event listeners, so that we will have to write it. Even though these properties are dynamically added, it doesn't synthesize. My understanding, it is auto synthesizing it, but I would still recommend synthesize it. Is that subject field and marks field. Okay. And we need a function to go back. I usually keep a naming convention like pressed, something like that, so that I understand, okay, this is for that particular button events. I would recommend having a meaningful name for your objects or functions, whatever you are writing. And this one, fine. This is the back button. Right click, touch down, go there, back to pressed. This is one way, and manually dismissing the way. But there is one more easiest way to cancel. For example, this is what I know by default. If I am going here, if I write ns log typically we use it for a minimalized log checking or console checking. So a button pressed, sorry, back button pressed. Something. So we can identify whether the back button is being pressed or not. So because we have added the event listener for that particular button, see that it is printing in the log. But I want it to, this one, cancel the view controller and go back. So for that to happen, I need to have in the destination view controller, or maybe the source view controller which has just launched that particular view controller, should have one more function. I'm seeing gray out is happening, maybe it's a bug, seems to be. One function we should have argument UI storyboard segue. If you have this particular event listener, this event listener job is to receiving something, a back event. But it doesn't tell anywhere it's a kind of a back event, but it is just an event which will receive some sort of notification from a UI storyboard whenever it is called. So I'll just implement it. Remember where I'm implementing? In the starting view controller. Now, if I go to storyboard, this is the first view controller. This is the second view controller. If I right click on exit, you may see this particular method what I just wrote, but I'm seeing in the second view controller. But in fact, this can be seen anywhere. So first view controller also will display. Remember, I'm just clicking and on exit button where I can see this particular thing. So what I am going to do, I already have an event listener that I'm not going to need. Instead, I'm going to connect touchdown to, I can connect this way, connecting the action. So when this particular button is going to click, it will go back. What happens? Just close that. Let me open it again. Now if I click back, it goes. But not only it dismiss itself, it also give me a callback here. I can check who is actually coming back. Remember, this particular method is there in the first view controller. So when I click here, when I click back, I see that callback from second view controller. It means the perform segue something I think I had to write. So this is one that also I'll write. The prepare for segue, which is for forward direction, and this is for reverse direction. It means from view controller 1 to 2, if you are going, this particular block will be called. This is exactly same like page before change of our jQuery mobile. This one is a new one. This will get a callback whenever it is coming back from a second view controller and back to the same view controller. So this particular callback will be called. So this one, to make it happen, you should have a callback method function having a return type IB action, and the of course the message should be UI storyboard. Same way. I won't say parameter. Maybe to start with, you may say, okay, this is a parameter it is expecting. So now here I can get a callback. I can bring the data from here to there. So now let me first finish the forward side, then we can do this reverse side. First one, I have an input text field. To make that happen, I'm going to need a second view controller, some string. Retain strong as almost same. Say names. So whenever it receives a value, I think we haven't initialized that. It's not been defined. So I have to add that one, looks like. Connected. And synthesize that as well. I prefer, because the UI label I could not map directly because it is coming only after view did load happens. So I need to name label, setting the text equal to this I have to do. Okay. So now send the data from first view controller. It is recommended to check the segue identifier before. Chances are there you may have more than one segue or more than one view controller destination it has. So it is always recommended to check which identifier being called. I mean segue identifier being called. It is called first name segue. So whenever first name segue is called, I'm very sure it is going to go to the second view controller. Now I need to have an instance of the second view controller. I need to import the header so I can understand what are all the objects defined in the second view controller. I'm only interested to know the name string so that if I can attach the value here. So second view controller. Typecasting needed because the segue identifier does not know what kind of a data it is. So destination view controller. So second name string is going to be name field text. So it is setting the value of name string from whatever you type from your name field, and that it will automatically add over there. So we'll test. So we see the name here. Now task is reverse. I click, I want to bring it over here. So how to do that? Same stuff, but slightly different way, because we don't have a segue to identify which identifier it is loading, because it is not manual. I need to have some way of identifying segue. This time source view controller is kind of class second view controller the segue has a source view controller, meaning it is returning back now. I'm checking what kind of class it is. It may be a class of second view controller type. If it is, yes, this is the second view controller. Java convention. Same thing, build it. Segue, source view controller. Now display them into, I hope I haven't synthesized them. Yes. It's called the mark label, subject label. I haven't synthesized them, so it is not being used. From the second view controller, it is called sec something. Subject field text and subject label text equal to sec. Sorry, it is mark field. It is text. So whatever the user had typed in those fields will be brought here and attached to the labels, whatever I put into the first segue. So let me see. When I type, now the data is coming from a view controller which got just dismissed and brought the data. So the object is traveling back and forth, or the properties are being traveling back and forth, but everything I'm identifying using the segue, and because that's the way it identifies the source and destination. But remember, the direction matters which one is source and which one is the destination. When forward direction, this the where that started, that is called source view controller, and where it lands is called destination view controller. That's the reason in forward direction the second view controller was called as the destination view controller. But in the reverse direction, the thing started from a second view controller and landing to this particular view controller. That time I have to denote that as a source view controller. The direction differed. So not to get confused when suddenly I'm calling the destination view controller and suddenly I'm making the source view controller. The direction matters. So a forward direction, starting point becomes a source and end point becomes a destination. The same thing in reverse direction, of course, possibly from where it started was considered as source view control, where it is landing is called as a destination view control. So the direction, based on the direction I am identifying and getting them. In this case, I have a segue with a valid name identifier. Using the segue, I could build the instance of the second view controller. But the second way, since the segue is automated because I am pointed to a callback function, I need to first verify the incoming source view controller is of type of particular second view controller or not. Once I make sure, then I can build and get the values of that particular view controller. At this point, it will have the fields or something filled with that. Those values can be brought and can be added to the existing view controllers. I mean the first view controller. So this is how it works. The forward direction. We can go back. This won't work. Previous values alone stay there, but this is a cancel kind of thing. We better change the name title of this one. We'll make it as a cancel. But we'll, and that also we can override. Even though it gets cancelled also, I would like to still bring the data. Yes, you can do it still, but we'll go back a little later to that point. So if you notice from this example, the first view controller does not lose the value. Once I click here, it went to background and the second view controller was freshly launched. But when I click back, the second view controller completely removed and it came back to a first view controller. So you have to see how the view controller lifecycle works. So the very first view controller stays as long as the app delegates, or as long as the window object, or as long as the application context permit. Subsequent view controllers, it will be loaded or removed based on the navigation what you are doing in the navigation control. So this is how it works. Our next example, or maybe Monday, we are going to create a table view as usual. So next part, we'll have a form here and we'll enter the data, and immediately a table will have the values added along with that. And we are going to give a add, edit, delete all the features, and of course we are going to see database, core data and all the stuff accordingly as we saw in the jQuery moment. So additional component we are going to study. When I talk about table view, yes, I have to talk about arrays and the object or NS dictionary or NS, or what you call array or mutable copies, I have to explain. So that part I will take it on Monday session. So make yourself comfortable with the forward and reverse or segue and unwind segue, and try to send the data back and forth and understand what is these purpose of these methods, like prepare for segue, and this is a custom method what you have written, which is getting the callback from a previous view controllers. So once you complete this one, we'll go back and see the additional data types of Objective-C, plus we'll see the table view example, table view, and of course Objective-C. After that Swift example also we are going to see accordingly. That's it.